Season 3 is starting tonight. The teams are pretty much set up. We hope everyone has a roster spot because it is time for AHL This Week. Hi, everyone. TSibs. The Moran boys are not part of the show this year. They are doing the NHL show. Hopefully you caught that on Friday night. My new co-host tonight, and possibly for the whole season if he doesn't screw this up, is my GM on Tucson, Broskie. Broskie, what's going on, dude? How you doing?
I'm doing great. How about yourself there, Sibs? Excited to be here today.
Yeah, doing well. I'm excited for Season 3 to finally happen and get going. We've not been able to play too many preseason games, but we've gotten some other good club games in. Not a lot of time for the AHLers, and I feel even worse for the guys in the CHL. But we've been able to get a few games in and get something going and get some chemistry going. And look, you're the GM. This is just not a lot of time to really get a feel for who your guys are and what you're gonna be able to do early in the season, and what you're gonna have to do as the season goes on. I imagine this has got to be tough for every GM in the AHL right now.
It's very tough. The toughest part is building chemistry, like you said. It's such a early bidding. It's so early. Bidding comes around and your team's built, and you got a week until not even a week. We had 3 preseason games or 3 days off, and today's the day. Today's a big day. Everybody opens up with hopefully with a big bang, and hopefully the season goes smoothly for everybody, and hopefully not too many people get banned because last season that happened, and unfortunately it started already. But
yeah, we'll talk about that briefly. You know what? Let's get to it now, just quickly. A few of the guys easily you can look at the ban list on the LeagueGaming.com website, and you can see what happened with an issue a couple of days ago. The only guy I really want to talk about is Kozmo, just because he's a good friend of ours. He's a good guy, and he just got caught up in a situation where he was trying to help some people who, quite frankly, I think were just using him and using his goodwill. And unfortunately, it's just something he shouldn't have done. And even if he was sure that everything was on the up and up, I advise everybody not to go out and make any account for anyone, because you're probably being used for something. And he wants to help out. That's just the way Kozmo is. And unfortunately, when he did find out that he created a tag for somebody who was already suspended, he needed to report that and just didn't do it quickly enough. And he's taking his medicine. He's more than happy to talk about it and say that. So it's I feel bad for him, but he knows he did something wrong. The league knows that he's a good guy, but they have to enforce the law, and I'm all for that, because this would just be a nightmare if you didn't have guys who were really enforcing it on the LG side. And unfortunately, Kozmo, no matter how good of an intention it was, winds up in a situation that you just, when you see good players and good guys like him, you really don't want to see them get caught up in a situation like this.
Definitely. It's unfortunate that happened so early in the season, even though it probably would have hurt more if it happened halfway through the season. The same with, I believe it was the Lehigh Valley Phantoms GM also got banned for knowing about the whole situation. I'm not 100% sure why exactly he got banned. I think it's because he signed the guy that he knew was banned.
Right.
That's unfortunate as well, And I mean, it's early in the season, but by the looks of it looks like King Dano took over the Lehigh Valley Phantoms this season, and old teammate of mine, and he's a good guy. I think he's going to be able to help that team out a lot.
Yeah, we'll talk about all the teams, and also obviously Chicago lost their GM in Kozmo, but they've gotten things together there, and they've got some more leadership. We'll talk about them in a little bit, but let's just talk about the level of talent that we saw in bidding for the AHL. Obviously, a good draft. A lot of guys in the AHL last year wind up in the NHL draft. Some 90 players later, quite a few, and I don't know what the count was, I haven't done it, but quite a few AHLers from last year move up to the NHL ranks by this draft. And so, Obviously a lot of the talent we saw in Rockford and Hartford, and plenty of other teams now up in the NHL. You don't have your J Claws anymore, and your Chisnasties to to have to deal with. And so a lot of good talent's gone up there. But despite that fact, Broski, I think we still are seeing a ton of talent that was available for the bidding for AHL, and there was plenty of options out there for us.
Definitely, and I think we're going to see a lot more talent that's going to probably get called up to the NHL this season. Not prospects, but I still think, I truly believe that there's a lot of amateurs in the AHL that have lots of talent that do belong in the NHL. Like Intro, honestly, I was quite surprised when we were able to pick him up in bidding because he's definitely an NHL talent player. He's great on the faceoffs, but that's still like skills pays bills. I'm not exactly sure why he was in the AHL.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe it was a late sign up or something like that, but there was a lot of good talent out there. Same with assisted, and the list goes on. But there's going to be a lot of standout players this season, I believe, and it's going to be a good season all around for a lot of teams. I think it's going to be closer standings than last season. I don't think anyone's going to be running away with it this year.
And so, with that in mind, we also not just held on to a lot of talent from the AHL, but first season for the CHL last season, and plenty of guys who were able to show their wares down there, who are now part of the AHL. A few even up in the NHL were part of the draft. The CHL season one obviously was not made up of a bunch of guys who couldn't make the NHL or AHL. A lot of them, most of them probably just not known. And so they were able to show their talents, and now we're starting to see some of that talent seep into the AHL and even into the NHL. So now a lot of that CHL talent now up at the AHL level, and it looks like it really is just going to keep fueling these leagues with more and more talent.
Guys like Red Flag, I believe, are up in the AHL this season. I believe Tiley, the defenseman of the year for the CHL last season, is playing for, I can't remember who, but I know he's up in the AHL this season. It's going to be interesting to see what these former CHLers are going to bring to their AHL teams this season. I'm really excited to see how these guys play, and I hope everything works out for them. It's going to be fun to watch them. I believe there were a few goaltenders too. I believe the Bulging Twine, if I'm not incorrect, also played in the CHL this season, and I've seen him play a few games already, and he's going to be one of those top goaltenders to beat. And what players have you noticed that you think are going to be up there, Sibs?
Well, there's a guy who it's funny because I'm seeing in the chat box right now, but as much of a love-hate, war-hate relationship that Rentalian 34 and I seem to have online, there's no denying that he showed how much talent he has down in the CHL, and he is going to help a Bears team out that is starting
There,
all over.
Sibs.
Well, and so I think it's a matter of just the fact that they only had Baby Girl coming back from the roster. They're starting out new pretty much, and he is. He is going to help. Rant is going to help this team. They've got decent ownership and up at the NHL level in Washington, and they have good management from what I can see right now in the Bears when you look at their draft a little bit, and we'll get to them. Sad to not be part of the Bears anymore, but excited about being part of a brand new team with Tucson, and I think what we're seeing is the expansion of the league with that extra team, and that's going to help out with the playoff structure. It's going to help out with more talent up in the AHL. But good luck to the Bears this year. I hope they do well, just out of sentimental reasons. Starting out in League Gaming on that team, working with Maranaconda and VHI for the first two seasons that I'm on, and now we work for them as they have taken over the Arizona Coyotes. That was a team that was absolutely decimated last year, and left as a rotting corpse at the side of the road. But those guys picked it up, and They wheeled and dealed, got themselves some good spots in the draft, picked up some good players along the way in bidding, and have what I believe has resurrected that squad. And hopefully they will be able to run that team into the playoffs and show that despite the fact that they were in dire straits after last season, that the Coyotes are definitely a team that are going to be reckoned with this year. The NHL is going to be interesting to watch. There's a lot of talent up there, a lot of good talent. But the AHL, I think, has caught up, Broskie. I think we have a lot of guys in the AHL that could very easily fill in the NHL and not be lost. I feel like maybe season one that was kind of the way it was, but I don't think that's the case anymore. I think the level of talent, pardon me, in the AHL is such that a lot of guys in the AHL, I won't say we because I'm not sure if I'm one of them, but a lot of guys in the AHL have the ability to go up and play in the NHL and do well there. And that's just my opinion, but I'm curious to see how you feel about the talent of level between those two leagues.
I think there's still a gap between the top players of the NHL and the top players of the AHL, in my opinion. I think there's still a lot of the guys in the AHL, like you said, that can easily go up and fill in. There's a lot of guys down in like let me check out here. In the Condors, for example, there's guys like Bobby Goggles. If you don't know him, he's a Xbox player that came over to PSN this year, and Oso seemed to pick him up for the general manager, and he was one of the top players over in Xbox, and I think he'll be able to go up the NHL and help them out whenever need be. And there's a lot of guys that I think are going to be able to go up there and help out their NHL team when need be. There's still a decent gap between like the best in the NHL and the best in the AHL, but that's going to always be there. That won't ever thin out.
Now we'll get to the talent on the teams. We'll do it in a very general way because we're only going to do this show for an hour. We're going to try and keep it short and sweet because we all want to get to practice tonight. But before we talk about the players, there are a lot of new GMs and AGMs this season in the AHL. Talk to me, because you've done this now for a few seasons. Talk to me about the lack of experience as management in this level. Does that really mean anything, or how much does it mean for someone who is new to being a GM or an AGM in the AHL?
The hardest part about being a GM is making sure your guys are at their games and pictures are being taken and people aren't getting too excited, leaving the games too early after they win, and then because that really
Right.
I know last season that happened a few times with the Condors. We're like, oh no, anybody still in game? Like, we haven't taken pictures yet. Pictures, and
Right.
I think the lack of experience that's what's gonna hurt the most is people who forget to take pictures, or like people forgetting they play a certain day, and signing up for games will be the biggest thing. You need people to sign up for games. You need your active TC to be signing up too, so you know who's available when you have a guy that messages you like an hour before game time saying, hey, things came up and I'm not going to be able to make it. Sorry about that. Then that's when your TC and the lack of experienced players who don't sign up for games and you're constantly messaging, that's going to be the hardest part for the new GMs this season,
Right.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
Again,
Go ahead.
again, who knows? Maybe their GMs have gotten on it. Maybe they got like set schedules already of like so many players play certain days, and like this set of guys, line one plays like Monday, Tuesdays, and like this set of guys plays Sundays and like Thursdays or something like that. But it's hard to do that as well. Setting lines is going to be the toughest thing this season.
Well, like we said, there's definitely a lot of new people in management and getting their first taste of it. And certainly some veterans like you sticking around, helping out in the AHL. We certainly, I think the rest of us are happy to have guys like you around to do that. Certainly, I would assume you'll be in the NHL next year, but we'll get to that at some point. But you talk about what some of the things are that are going to be tough for management. Um, Already we're seeing a bunch of guys getting put on waivers. We're seeing a lot of players moving around just in the short time that we've had. It's interesting just to see so many players move around. Maybe because I wasn't part of management last year, but it seems to me like there's a lot more player movement than I remember seeing. How do you see season 3 compared to last season? Do you see more movement of players? Was it like this last year?
Last year, I do not. It was nothing close to this. In my opinion, like last season, it was more chill postseason. There wasn't people going crazy trading, and a lot of the new. I think a lot of the new GMs are trading just to trade kind of thing. Not really value for value. And if you look at the waiver board, there's a lot of players. Like I've noticed a few people on the waiver board actually got 500K bids on come bidding, and now they're on the waiver board
Right.
looking for a new home. That's kind of interesting. Maybe it's because TC was assigned today. I'm not 100% sure, but that was very interesting to me. It's just to see the amount of people that were actually bid on to get thrown on waivers today.
Right. Well, I tell you what, we're going to talk to a few guys in a little while at 7:30, about 13 minutes from now. We're going to talk to 4-H Pestilence, who many of you have spit venom at him for his preseason summary of what he thought, with a very quick, very, very high level summary that he put out. Obviously, a lot of people were not happy with it, but look, from what he knows and from what we all gather, we sort of have certain opinions. 4-H has been, in this league and a big part of it now for a while, for a couple of seasons. So it's it was interesting to see what he put up there. He hit a lot of high points, and we'll try and talk to him a little bit more about some of the things that he said in his review in detail. Give him a chance to maybe talk to a few of the objections that were made on the LG website. But we'll talk to Pest at the bottom of the hour. Then about 7:45 Eastern, we will talk to two members of management this year. We're going to talk to Dead Soul Rising and MGML 1987. Both of them are veterans of the league. MGM was one of our guys on the Hershey Bears who was always available, a good conscientious player, and wanted to be a bigger part of LG. So he got involved in management, and I think the league's better off for him. So we'll talk to those guys in about 25 minutes or so, and then try and wrap this up around 8 o'clock again, so that we can all go out and practice and get ready for Game 1 and 2 of our season this year. Let's start talking about some of these teams, Broskie. We've dealt with a few of them in maybe trade talks and waiver wire situations for all these guys, and we've had ongoing discussions, obviously based upon what do you need, what do I need, kind of thing. There are quite a few teams out here who have a lot of talent, and there are some teams that I look at and I say, okay, I look at goaltending and defense a little more. You're probably a little more offensive minded when you look at a squad, but for me, I'm looking at goaltender, I'm looking at defense, and there are some teams that have set themselves up nicely in that area. But talk to me about a couple of the teams that we're going to be going up against, and how they've set themselves up, and who are maybe your top 3 or 4 teams that you could see getting far in this run and into the playoffs.
I believe, without a doubt, I think there's going to be 3 teams that make playoffs in my eyes, and I definitely think Rampage will be one of them. Francie is doing a pretty good job down there, if you ask me. He got a solid forward set with, of course, him and Tater. They've been playing together forever. Right. I think they got a solid forward core straight down the board. I think they'll have 3 depth lines this season, especially with their defense. They got a returning Red Wings to Rampage again this year, along with I Quantum Physics. He's a pretty good player. I've played with him before. And Dabblesy. Yeah, their goaltending is even pretty strong too. They got Tyler Loki returning for a second season, and Microwave also playing for them, and both 2 pretty good goaltenders. And I'm excited to see what they do.
Yeah, I like Tyler a lot. He's been one of my favorites in goal. One of the guys on the team too, Wally 919. he was solid for the Hartford Wolfpack during their playoff run last year, and one of those guys who may not have had a lot of publicity while the season was going on, but showed his value to his team, helped them bring Rockford to 7 games in the final, and he's one of the guys who I really like on this team. I've known Lannister Bro for a long time. He's a good, solid player, knows how to play this game in and out. He's a veteran of it. And like you said, there are plenty of other guys on this team. Berger for 750K, I think, is a great pickup for them. They have a really, really solid team. And Francie has really been active in the chat box, in the Skype management chat. He's trying to make deals. He's trying to see what he can do with different guys. And, to me, that's the kind of GM you want. Somebody who is going to, not disappear, but keep things moving.
Definitely, that's having an active GM is probably one thing that every team needs. I know it gets hectic at times, and for the new GMs, they're gonna realize that come 2-3 weeks into this, they're gonna realize like, oh wow, this is actually a lot more work than maybe they expected. But I hope all of them stick it to it, and that's why we have AGMs as well. Gives you a break for a day or two, and rotate in and out like that there, but. I think it's going to be interesting. I think there's a few other teams that are going to stand out. I think Albany is going to be another good team. They got a very strong defensive core alongside with Bakersfield.
Yeah, Bakersfield I like a lot too. There's just a lot of good. There's a lot of good quality on there. The funny thing is that you've got Maddens and Abdiel on this team. They're both former goaltenders who've decided to become offensemen this year. And quite honestly, this team has 4 really good goaltenders on it if you count Musapotamus and Bulging Twine. We played Bulging in a preseason game the other day. Like, he's always been a good goaltender, but he was standing on his head in 17, and as good as he was in 16, I think he's really mastered this one, and he is going to, in my mind, be one of the better goaltenders in this league. And for 1.5 mil, they got a steal with him. Joe Wink, Berg Brawler. There are so many names on this team. Bobby Goggles. All these guys that you mentioned. Just a ton of talent. And if they stick with it, if these guys make themselves available and play consistently in and out, I don't see how they don't make the playoffs and don't go deep into it.
Yeah, definitely. They got a solid forward core too. Honestly, one of the biggest surprises was I was actually quite surprised Water Wheels was waived today. I wonder what the deal was. That was maybe he just didn't have the availability he was looking for. I'm not too sure, but it's definitely one of those interesting waivers I was talking about. How he got a bid of 500K on, and it stuck it out, and maybe it was just availability. Maybe he couldn't figure out what he wanted to do with him, and who knows? I know I spoke to, I believe, who was it there? I spoke to a GM today about left wings and stuff like that, and he actually the Americans. That's who it was. It was the Americans. I was speaking to 696969, and he accidentally waived some people, and who knows? Maybe that could have been the case scenario too. Maybe it was an accidental wave.
I got the feeling that is happening. So we'll have to check into that sooner. But yeah, I think that's definitely happening with a few teams.
Maybe that was the case scenario. Maybe they were checking things out and they were clicking on too many buttons, and next thing you know, they waived the player, and they're like, "Oh no, that's not good." It's definitely going to be interesting, though. Yeah. I think there's going to be a few other teams that are going to do good.
Yeah, I wanted to mention a couple. I was looking at the Cleveland Monsters. They've got some decent players, but they've got a really solid goaltender in Ced Noel, who, 38, 21, and 3.1 goals against. If you were watching LG at all last year, the website, he was being named in 3 stars of the game constantly. This guy is a very consistent, solid goaltender for them, and if he starts the majority of them, he's going to really help them out. Back road to Philly, Baller Chick, who is a really solid player with a really good sense for the puck. 2.5 for Baller Chick, but certainly worth the pickup. Snake Plissken, but another guy I want to talk about was Fat Gilly. 17-7-1, 87 points, 46 goals, 41 assists, a plus 41 for Rockford last season. He had a goal and an assist in the 2-1 Rockford win in Game 6 last year that helped keep them alive and get them to that winning Game 7. And he's one of those surprises, again, who surprise meaning that maybe not a lot of guys knew about him, but after watching that playoff run and what he did in the finals, man, he's got talent, and they got him for 500K. And I think Cleveland, I see them making the playoffs. I don't know how far they're going to go, but they've got talent on this team. Craven also coming up from Sarnia from the CHL last year, had a decent season. He's going to be playing right D. So I kind of like the Monsters. I think I think they've got a good group of people who, if they play well as a team, could really surprise a lot of people.
For sure. And I'm going to backtrack a little bit to Said Noel. I remember me and him played a lot before season 2 started, and he was one of those guys I was bidding on. Fortunately, he went for more than I wanted him to go for because I don't think I have a certain set price. I don't like bidding over on goaltenders, but everybody has their own way. But I know Said Noel, he's so patient with his sticks, it's crazy.
Right.
He'll sit there and he'll make the offensive player make the move before he even touches his joysticks. And I think that definitely helps out. The patience in goaltenders is key this year for not biting on 2-on-0s or 2-on-1s and cross creases, because the movement in this game is definitely fine. And if the one little movement mistake and guys can be blowing past you with no problem.
Well, that's without question. I as a goaltender have had the same issue where moving from side to side, you can move too much too quickly, and they're just they're going back the other way with shots, and they're going right past the goaltender this year. So I'll be curious to see how he plays in 17. But you're right, his style lends to to a success in this game because of the way he positions himself.
For sure.
I think another team I liked, and just looking at the names and the talent on it, was the Lehigh Valley Phantoms. Again, two great goaltenders, Peaky Blinders and White Cowpie, who are, they are both very good goaltenders, and they got them for a good price. J.J. Loops is the AGM, but again, a very solid player. King Willem, Trouble Kid, Uberpone, again, all well-known names and all guys who could definitely help this offense move, and they certainly have. Now they are a team that either can make the playoffs or could really have some issues, but I just see a lot of talent on that one, and it's hard to believe that they would have a problem, having a decent record.
Yeah. I've also noticed that there is an NHL center that came down and took management in the AHL level, Umekamisik, part of
Right.
Iowa Wild. And honestly, his team is looking pretty good.
That's
I
another
don't
team.
I don't recognize everybody on his forward lines, but I'd recognize a lot of defenders. And I know Angry Dangler, Legit Noodles, and Cyrus Jace are all solid pickups. And they picked up Rask from last season. He played for Hartford, or the Rockford Ice Hogs, I believe, and
Yeah, you've got the,
solid goaltender, and you got the defensive core and you got the goaltender there. Now you just got to let your offense get the goals, and I could see Iowa being a strong contending team.
yeah. Right now in their roster, they do have both Newfie Kanata and Rask as their goaltenders. Gigi Joey is solid. Riverdale Stomp, Siffic, of course. You make me sick. Again, all names that we know, and as you mentioned, Angry Dangler on defense, a couple of other guys there who are well known as well. So Iowa, another team that could really make an interesting run on this one. And so yeah, there's a lot to be talked about with how these guys drafted this year. There's one of the team, and maybe I'm trying to remember if you already talked about this, but the Manitoba Moose have a lot of good quality talent there. Of course, Dead Soul is their GM, but Ryan R is on that team as well. Math QC, Vibes, who is not management this year and is just playing, is up on that offense. But I like, even though it was a very big price tag at 6.25 mil for Heather B. Heather LB, she is a converted goalie, but may have been one of the better defenders that was won in bidding, and I say that only because I got a chance to play with her a lot when 17 came out, and with Dead Soul, and I gotta tell you, I'm very impressed with the way she plays defense, and was kind of hoping maybe she would sneak under the radar, but knowing that Dead Soul knew her pretty well, I was pretty sure that was not going to happen, and I think he really wanted her badly to be on that team playing defense, and I think. No guts as goaltender is a nice grab for them as well at 500K. I think Manitoba can really cause a lot of trouble in the league too.
For sure. I think there's one team though in that stands out for the rest of them, not because of the talent throughout the whole entire team, not because of the extreme depth, but I think the Milwaukee Admirals are going to be some team that you want to watch because I mean, after the big price of Skills Pays Bills at 12 mil and the Jade Dragon going for 3 mil, that took a lot of cap space out of
Right.
their roster, and they got a lot of 500K guys coming in here, and it's going to be interesting how Robo 73 created his team. I'm really interested to see how strong they come out, and I think the first week will really tell us whether or not the big contracts were worth it or not. You know,
Right.
I feel like if I spent 12 mil on a guy, I'd expect him to be getting quite a few points or stopping everybody coming into the zone. So it's going to be interesting to see how this works out for a lot of these teams here, and I think Milwaukee's has either is going to have a pretty solid team, a team that's going to do all right, or a team that's going to flunk out.
Well, we're gonna now take some time out and bring in the man we mentioned before, 4-H Pestilence, who wrote up a quick little how do you do about what was going to happen this season in season 3 in 4-H. First of all, thanks for joining us tonight on the show. Appreciate you being on with us.
No problem, guys.
So you caught a little flack about about the bad things you said about some people or about some teams. I'm not sure anybody really praised you for saying good things about their teams, but I guess you always get the crap running downstream first. I want to give you a chance to talk to us a little bit about what you put into this season starting preview, and what kinds of things were you looking at to base your judgments on.
So, I just went through, looked who got what for contracts. I know I've been a manager since season 1, so I know most of the regular LG guys. Then I played a little VG last season, so I got a feel of some of the guys over there. And I just gave my opinion on everyone, who I thought was good, who I thought got overpaid, who I thought could make a team blow up.
Right. And I don't think I definitely don't think I disagree with some of the things you talked about as far as people blowing up. But I'm sorry. Go ahead and continue. I think it was interesting some of the things you said about teams who definitely had some talent, and as you mentioned, would they be able to keep it together? Will they be able to have everybody work together as a team and not have to lose a good player because of missing games or whatever the case may be? But again, talk a little bit more about how you're how you're feeling about this season, about the talent level that we're seeing now. Broskie and I were talking a little bit about that earlier. What's your take on the talent level this season compared to 1 and 2?
I think teams are going to be more spread out this year. I think the good teams are going to be head and shoulders above the not so good teams. Whereas last season, most of the teams were still in it right till the very end. I don't think that's going to be the case this year. I think the talent gap is pretty sizable.
Right. And we also, we went kind of quickly through a bunch of teams, but you kind of did a breakdown division by division. So let's get your opinion on this. Let's start with the Eastern Atlantic. Definitely some teams in here who are being run by a couple of new GMs, but a couple of guys who've been around for a while as well. Hartford Wolfpack, Thorpe Clan, running that team. Talk to me about who do you see coming out of there in the end? What team do you favor?
Well, I mean, I'm going to go with Thorpe and the Hartford Wolfpack. Guy's been doing it forever. He knows what he's doing. He's got a solid team throughout. There's no real weaknesses. Insanity and the Bruins, they're another solid team throughout. They have my former GM and Filthy Habits, who I saw lit it up in one of his preseason games, so I'm happy for him.
Yeah, absolutely. I was kind of surprised to see him last as long as he did. He is certainly a talented player. And again, I mentioned a little bit about Lehigh Valley. They've got, they've got some talent there. The question is, are they going to be able to consistently put these guys out there week in, week out, and get the kind of production they're going to need from them on a consistent basis? Even with decent goaltending, is that enough for a team like Lehigh Valley?
Yeah. And actually, in my write-up, I said about Darth Gotenks being a solid D-man, and they went and waved him on me.
Well, we saw a lot of waving today, so I'm not sure what that really means.
There was a lot of waves.
Yeah, there was. My phone didn't stop blowing up.
So we figure Hartford. You thinking still Hartford's going to come out of the East?
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to them and Providence.
We'll move on to the Eastern North, and again, a couple of teams in here who had some rough seasons last year. Utica certainly had their problems. Albany had a lot of talent, but their leadership was, certainly left to be desired. They certainly wasted a lot of good talent on that team, but I think they've come back and have been able to get some decent guys over there who will definitely get themselves into a playoffs. But let's talk about these teams and a little bit. Well, after we talk about who you favorite in this one, let's talk a little bit about Rochester and what it's tough when you when you don't have all the management set up. But again, who do you favor coming out of this one? Because I kind of think it's a little bit up for grabs.
Well, I think that I have to favor us, my team, the Ice Caps.
Right.
I mean, we spent a lot on defense this year. And
right.
I think we got 2 really good steals at goal with Rambo and C-Barbs.
Right.
Albany, I think, will give us a run for our money. And the Comets, they're not bad either. And as far as the American situation, I just hope the GM, he'll do all right, I think. I just hope he's got thrown into the Wolves. He's a first-year GM. And some of us veteran guys know how to take advantage of guys like that. But I think with Ryan running things up in Buffalo now, he'll give him some pointers.
So we were, obviously you're looking at your team, but I kind of do think, if you're set up well in this division, you have a chance to really make a run. I'm not convinced that there is an abundance of talent in your division, and I think that could help you guys out a little bit.
Yeah.
I never say die to anything that JMM 420 is putting together, and I think Syracuse has a relatively decent unit. But like you said, I know you have them on the postseason bubble, but they certainly could make it in there. Western Central, we were talking a little bit about Iowa and the level of talent. Cleveland, Manitoba. I think this is one division that has a good deal more talent in it and could really be an issue. Now, Chicago have lost Kozmo, and certainly that not only hurts for leadership, but it hurts at the goaltending position. I think there might be a couple of teams, and I'm not totally sure that there is one team that I could name that's absolutely going to come out of the West.
Oh, for sure. It's pretty. The Western divisions, both of them, they're all the teams are solid. I mean, the Wild, they have a great lineup. Not gonna lie.
And with that kind of leadership too, and you've got Newfie in goal, I think that really helps them tremendously.
If Newfie plays like he did last year, I think they'll be the number 1 team, especially Chicago lost Kozmo. He's another great goalie.
Right.
Dead Soul's been around. He knows what he's doing. And he got Vibes, another former GM.
Right.
So they got some veteran leadership over there. Cleveland, their team's not bad. they do have a player on there who, like I said, I'm pretty sure is a ticking time bomb. I won't name any names.
Well, you did here, and my and my only issue I ever had with him is with Rich Rocks is that he tends to like to play guitar while he's playing NHL. So if you kind of need two hands when you're playing the game. So hopefully when he plays a league game, he doesn't do the same thing.
Yeah, that's true. We had Rich last year. I mean, he's a good guy, but yeah, you're right. And with Rich, sometimes you need the mute button. It's a great thing.
I hear you. So yeah, in the end, I don't know if I really had to put a name on this one. I would probably sheerly out of the leadership, it would be between Iowa and Manitoba. I think those two teams could really could come down to those two and whether or not these guys play solidly all year long. I like them both. I'm a big fan of Dead Soul. I like him a lot, and certainly have got along well with Vibes. But I've played with Civic. I've played with Mecca. Again, tons of talent on that team and great goaltending.
Yep. I have it as a 3-team race between Iowa, Chicago, and Manitoba. Any one of them could come out of there on top. So it'll be fun to watch this season. Good thing they're in the West and I'm in the East.
And certainly the Western Pacific, I think there is, again, a lot of good talent in this league. I like Stockton with MGM leadership. With his leadership, I like that they have somebody who's a good, steady hand as management there. Certainly Thorpe Clan in Texas looks like they've loaded up pretty well. And again, certainly Broskie and I like our team, or else we wouldn't be bothering doing this. But yeah, I think there's a lot of talent up and down the Western Pacific, and again, this may be, in my mind, the toughest division that's out there.
It was definitely the toughest in my mind too. Every team was good. Yeah. I mean, I think San Antonio's probably the number one team in that division. But after that, all the rest of the teams are close. I mean, the goals went out and signed Dom Squad, who in the AHL for VG put up over 200 points. So that has something to be said for it.
Right.
You guys have Intro, who's someone I was bidding on, and I think's a great center. Man Bear Pig's another solid pickup.
Yeah.
In Ontario, they got some good leadership with Curlew and I and Frank the Tank. Their offense is pretty good. So we'll see how they are. And then I got caught out for calling some of the CUDA players average. But
yeah, no, I saw that you mentioned iPass U score. It might have been overpaid for. I mean, he obviously has good numbers. I don't know how many guys have been able to play with him, but he has a lot of talent. But he, in the time that I've played with him, he also communicates really well too, and I kind of like that. And I guess it is debatable about whether or not you pay that much for someone, but I wouldn't be that upset if we paid that much for him, just because I think there are a lot of variables that he brings to the table.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we scouted him a lot. We had him in a lot of our scouting games, and my AGM Hunter of Hodge, he was in love with him. But in the end, he went too high, and we went a different direction, spending most of our money on defense.
Right.
So,
who do you have?
That's interesting. You bring.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
That's interesting. You bring up defense, because I really think this season is going to be a lot about defense. It's going to be whose defense is the best and whose defense is slacking. I think that will be the biggest. That's going to be the biggest gap between what makes teams great and what makes teams good. I think the defense will be a lot about this, because again, the point shots, the just staying on your man, being able to hold that line when you got two guys coming up on you, making the smart decision of taking the pass away and being able to get yourself into that position is going to make a big difference between defenders. It's going to make certain defenders stand out and certain defenders not stand out so much.
yeah, for sure.
Okay. Go ahead.
Go
Sorry.
ahead.
Well,
No, I was just-
I was just going to say there's a bit of a delay here, so we're just stepping all over each other. I want to get going here with you and let you go, but I want to ask the final question. Do you see? Is it clear to you who two teams are who might make it to the finals? And I'm not going to ask you to pick the winner, but is it clear yet, or is it just way too early to predict something like that?
I think from the West, probably San Antonio.
Mm-hmm.
And from the East, it's that's gonna sound bad if I pick the Ice Caps. So I'll say it could be anyone.
If it were the Ice Caps, name the next team you would pick out of the East.
Probably Hartford, seeing as they've been there season 1 and 2. So
quite amazing how they continue to keep putting a team together despite who comes and goes on that roster.
I know.
But
Crazy.
Listen, thanks a lot for your time today, 4-H. We will see you on the ice, and definitely keep those write-ups going, whether people like it or not. I think it's always good for the league.
For sure. Good luck with the season, guys.
All right, thanks a lot. That is 4-H Pestilence, who joins us, the Ice Caps GM, and he will hopefully do some more write-ups as the season goes on, and we will get a chance to be able to look at those and maybe revisit them with him when we get a chance down the road, and talk to him more about what he thinks is going on. We will talk to a few more people in just a second, but how do you feel about what 4-H is saying as far as maybe the four basic teams who may come out for the playoffs?
I think everything he said, he was backing it up with a little bit of knowledge behind it. You know, who's good, who's not so good, and the guys that are going to stand out. And the way even when he said it wouldn't be right for him to say the Ice Caps. I do see the Ice Caps having a good season. He definitely built a strong, well, in my opinion, he definitely built a very strong defensive core with Jay Silvers, Benson, and all the defenders on there. I wouldn't mind even having. They're all solid defenders, and even their forward line is pretty good too. They got MLN, who me and him were good friends last season. We talked a lot. We played a lot together, and they got a lot of guys that could really blow up and to have a really good season with the defensive core they got. And Seabarbs, once again, he was on my training camp last season, and the only reason why there was only one reason why I traded him last season, and that's because I knew he deserved the roster spot, and both of my goaltending spots were filled.
Right.
So in my opinion, I think St. John's they'll have a solid season this year. I think they'll definitely be able to get those wins when need be.
Well, we move on here with the show and bring in two more people who are part of our management team in the AHL. We will talk to Dead Soul Rising and MGML 1987. Gentlemen, how are you doing tonight?
Very good, man. How are you?
Good. Listen, we just talked to 4-H a little bit about his predictions somewhat, but talk to me first of all. Let's start with the basic question, and I'll start with you, Dead Soul. The talent level, we've talked about it at the start of the show and with 4-H. The talent level in the AHL this season, with the CHL being so successful, so much more talent being picked up. Certainly more going up to the NHL, but with all that movement going around, I still think the AHL has gotten better as far as how much talent we have flowing.
I'd have to agree. I think it's going to be a pretty tough season all around. I think it's going to be there's a lot of talents kind of spread out all over the place. There's a few teams that definitely stacked up and a few people that were sleepers. And ultimately, I think it's going to be a very tough season for a lot of teams, especially I know in our division looks really good. And like you were saying, the Western Pacific there. So it's going to be a good season.
MG?
Yeah, I agree. There's no shortage of guys to be bidding on. And there's a few guys that didn't make it into AHL bidding that I was quite surprised that were forced to go down to the CHL.
MGM, talk to me about your first season as management GM over in Stockton. They certainly had a rough season last year. Talk to me about the experience so far for you and trying to rebuild this team.
So far, it's been pretty good. I've got a pretty good owner up in Calgary, Percosaurus.
He's been more than helpful. I think him being an AHL GM last year, he's a lot more sympathetic to what I'm going through because he went through it last year. But the bidding process was quite a bit more intensive than I was expecting, that's for sure.
So, Dedsel, I was pretty sure that as Heather LB's number kept on going up in the bidding, that was absolutely you. And and I say that only because we played with Heather a lot during the early days of 17 when it first came out. We played a lot of club together, and I was incredibly impressed with how well Heather plays defense. Certainly a position switch for her, but I'm assuming you're just as impressed as I am with the way she's played so far with this game.
Absolutely. I mean, that kind of money is not really what I wanted to spend on anybody. I did have plans to spend a lot on defense. Certainly defense is where I thought if I was going to spend the most money, it would be there. Not really planning on, one or two players to spend that kind of money on initially, but you know how bidding goes. It just doesn't go the way you hope or expect. Sometimes, I really didn't expect it to go that way, that's for sure. But I played with her a lot. For me personally, I mean, I like ex-goalies as defenders. Usually they see things a little bit differently. And
Right.
And for her in particular, you've seen her play, so you know the kind of plays that she can help stop. And for me, it was like the chemistry that we have as well is a big thing. So for me, paying for chemistry, I'll pay a bit for that. But I definitely paid a little bit more than I would have liked. But it's the way it goes sometimes. I think it's going to pay off in the long run for sure. There's no doubt about that.
Now I know I'm going to catch some hell with this because I see he's on our YouTube chat right now, but I'm going to bring him up anyway. Vibes Digital, who had been management before and just came back and as a player this season, $2 million I think is a great price for him. Talk to me about besides the player he is. Talk to me about other variables that Vibes can bring to your team.
Well, with him, obviously he's had two seasons in a row there that he was the GM of the Wolves, where he took them to the playoffs both times, and just he knows talent. He really knows what he's talking about. His leadership skills are just right up there. He's the best of the best out there, and just a great guy overall. Really fun to work with. He's certainly been helping me with a few things behind the scenes, and just ultimately again, $2 million for that kind of help as well, along with what he brings to the ice. For him and I, we have some really, really great chemistry when we play together. And I think we just make each other better players, and it's fun. It's really fun to play along with him. So it helps that he's also a great leader as well, to be able to bring that to our team. So, yeah.
So MGM, I'm thinking your strategy, from what I can tell, was to try and rebuild the Hershey Bears over in Stockton, because you've got
at least one line. Least one line.
You've got and you've also got Backdoor over there as well on defense with you. So is that going to make a full team, a full line? Dan Man, Joy Rides, and Brink, and then you two guys on D.
We'll see. Scheduling is not as easy as it seems to be, but I think I was trying to get at least one constant this season for me being brand new as a GM. And then as far as the next two lines, they were all scouting and all, kind of stat watching and seeing who we could pick up for good prices.
And you certainly put a good number, $3.25 million on the Flyers, 1992 as goalie, 2.9 goals against in 14 games, limited amount of action, but certainly a guy who has shown, and I think if we've all played with him at some point, that he is a good fundamental goaltender and can make some spectacular saves when needed. Is that part of your strategy? Is that you feel like goaltender needs to be a really solid position? You can't take a chance on that.
I thought so. Yeah, definitely. And Flyers, he also, not only is he's a good goalie, but he's also a pretty stable guy. His availability is pretty much 100%. He's always around to practice. I've scouted quite a few games with him. And that could be pretty important when the goalies have to take so many games a week. But I also think our backup goalie, who we got, I think, for a steal, New Jersey's very own, I think he kind of flew under the radar. I mean, if you look on EA's stats, he's number 79 in goalies in the world. So,
Wow.
Did you think I got a question for you here, MG? Did you think Labrat was going to go for 500K or not? That completely blew underneath my eyes. I never even saw him in bidding at all.
we picked him up in NHL bidding. So I think that's the only way. If he made it to AHL bidding, there's no way we would have got him for 500K. Same with
that makes more sense to me.
Yeah, same with Joyrides as well. If we didn't pick him up in AHL or NHL bidding, I don't think he would have been a 500K player either.
So, final question for both of you, and we'll start out with Dead Soul. You guys feel pretty set right now at this point in the season? Do you feel like with the season starting week 1 tonight, any more moves immediately, or is this a let's see what happens and play it out a few weeks and then go from there?
There's definitely going to be a little bit of changes, just a little bit, some tweaks here and there. Mostly availability, like MG kind of touched on. It's the one big question mark because I do have lines that I have set. We didn't get to put them in the preseason because the preseason was obviously put together really quickly there, and not everybody was able to make it. So we didn't really put out any of the lines that we're actually going to play together. And that being said, putting together the lines tonight was definitely a little bit of a juggling act, and still going to have some tweaking. I'm sure, that's over the season. I'm hoping it's going to get a little bit more consistent, but ultimately, I feel pretty prepared with what we've got. Ultimately, I think we're going to work with exactly what we have for most of the season. There might be a few little small changes, but I'm very comfortable and confident with who we have. Again, it's just availability is my only concern in terms of everybody being available for those lines for each week.
MG?
Yeah, 100% agree. Same thing. Trying to set up lines was like pulling teeth to get lines set up tonight. But I like the way Maranaconda did it last year, where he had set lines and he gave them specific nights that they were playing on. You always knew what nights you were going to play on. But it's not always going to work that easily. But I think overall, I'm pretty happy with my team, top to bottom. I think there probably will be a few tweaks here and there as the season goes on. But no, I don't think any major changes will be coming my way.
All right, gentlemen, thanks for joining us tonight. I appreciate it, and good luck with the Season 3 for both your teams.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us on.
Yeah. Dead Soul Rising from Manitoba Moose and MGML's 1987 from the Stockton Heat, both GMs of their respective teams joining us tonight, and we wish them luck. We're going to be wrapping it up here as we're getting ready for the season starting in about an hour and a half. And final thoughts from you as we get ready to close out here, Broskie. What are you thinking as far as our competition this year? What's what's your concern for us, and what are the teams that you think are really going to be the ones we need to focus on?
Well, like you've been saying all show, I'm sure people are going to disagree with what I have to say, but I think our division that we're playing in is going to be by far the toughest division in the AHL this season. I definitely think the Western Pacific will be where most of the top teams come from. There's still going to be those top teams from the other divisions too, but I definitely think the Western Pacific will have the toughest teams to beat. I think the Western Pacific is going to be tight right up to the end, or it's going to be complete blowouts from certain teams. But I think all in all, it's going to be a really good season. I'm excited to see what new GMs can do with their teams. I'm excited to see what the returning GMs can do. And I'm hoping everything goes as planned for everybody. And I think it's going to be a fun season to play, watch, and, do the podcast on.
All right, sir. Well, listen, thanks for joining me tonight, Broskie. I appreciate it. And we'll get going for sure next week with what happened in week 1 and what good and bad things happen for everybody. We're finally going to get a chance tonight to see where everybody's at and really get a sense of what to expect as the season goes on. Again, Broskie, thanks a lot, man. I'll be talking to you.
Anytime. I'm excited. Once again, I can't wait for the season to start already.
And I think everyone...
Good best of...
Yeah, go ahead.
Best of luck to everybody out there. Best of luck to the GMs. Best of luck to all the teams. And I'm excited to see what happens here.
That's Broskie, GM of the Tucson Roadrunners. And I'm TSibs. Season 3, week 1, starting in an hour and a half. Hope you guys are ready for a exciting Season 3 as the AHL starts up with the NHL tonight as well. Good luck to everybody out there. We will talk to you next week as we recap what happens starting tonight.